And just like that, it's Wednesday. Again, I'll tell you what's fun. First of all, greetings and salutations. I'll tell you what's fun, everybody, is you walk your dog first thing because you just want to get a coffee, right? You just want to go out and get a coffee. But no, dog wants to come. I'm not speaking to her at the moment. She did a wee-wee on the carpet. Last night, I was furious. I slung her out. Anyway, she met up with some friends, went to Tramp, had a dance, and came back at 3 a.m. She was fine. Anyway, so I went out this morning, took Ebony, the mini schnauzer, with. The heavens opened up. Just open. I got drenched. I got drenched. Anyway, I don't know where Neil, he's so unreliable. I'm going to bring on our first guest. You know what? Because I blooming well feel like it. How are you? Can you hear me? How are you?
Good morning. I'm absolutely fine. Thanks.
Great. Now, either you've come to fix someone's boiler or that's a musical instrument.
This is a...
Oh, I love that. Oh my God, I love that. So you're going to play us some stuff. Belushi, been looking forward to having you on the show. You're going to be playing us some stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, go on. We don't normally do this, but this is exceptional. Then you can tell us all about yourself. So let's just listen to some of this. 2, 3, 4. No, it's not like that. Oh, come on. That's giving you a huge round of applause. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's the late Mr. Neil Long.
I couldn't find the link, even though I sent it to someone this morning.
Yeah,
but what a greeting to come into. Hello.
Wasn't that fabulous?
Yeah.
Oh, Belushi, that was just fantastic. I love that. Oh, no, are you kidding? Thank you.
Raining, and it's raining now very hard.
Yeah, it was right. I know, I got soaked. Tell me about it. Absolutely. Look at me. I had to change. I got drenched. Belushi, tell us all about yourself. Because that was beautiful. Now, what is that? Is that I'm going out on a limb here. Is that a sitar? Please tell me.
Sitar, I was going to say.
Yeah, this is sitar, of course. 21 strings, 21 frets, older than me.
Wow. I don't mean wow, it's old. I mean 21 strings. Jeez, I can't even play 4 on the bass. And tell us about yourself, because you're not just here to
myself. Okay,
yeah.
I was born in India, and in 2000. I was born in India in 1950.
Okay, I'll have a pint of whatever you're on, because you look great. Blimey.
So I'm almost 70 years, and I'm still very well. And good. I go for a walk every day for 1 hour plus. So,
you haven't got a mini schnauzer, have you? Or do you want one? Because I'm not speaking to her at the moment. You can take her for an hour's walk. She's getting on my nerves, to be honest with you.
No, but I'm...
You see, this is your problem, Belushi. Immediately you said, yeah, very well, and you start coughing up like you got bubonic
No,
plague.
no, I'm just coughing because I want to show that what 70 years people do.
Yeah, but if it was,
Okay.
if you were born in
My
1950,
wife
hang on,
is,
whoa, if you were born
yeah.
in 1950, right,
Yeah.
you're 72.
Yeah.
Well,
I hate to break
71
that news to
actually.
you.
71. Don't tell my daughter; she wouldn't accept it.
No, of course you won't. No, in fact, I was only talking to my daughter just before the show,
Yeah.
and she's 88. So
All
listen,
right.
so
Wow.
so I was joking. So what else? What else?
Well,
Because I know that you've been trying to get on the show for some time, and I'm glad you're here. So is Neil.
When I was born, it was in a village
Yeah.
in India,
Uh-huh.
full of mud, full of dirt, full of frogs, full of
Croydon.
everything. Everything was there. So
Yeah,
I have
this
come
is
to
sounding
Britain
very
now.
familiar to Neil. He lives in New Malden. It's probably twinged with your village.
How dare you?
Well, just putting
Yeah,
it
but
out there.
that village has no what sort of no roads, nothing. So
Well, that is New Malden. You're describing it into a T.
You're
yeah,
on
it's a
thin ice, Russ.
big Wimbledon. Thank you very much for
I'm
putting my
standing here
village such a
dripping wet, I don't
high
care.
caliber.
Right. So anyway, you're born in this village.
Yeah, and
Doesn't
now I'm in a
doesn't sound great,
privilege.
does it?
Now in a privilege in Britain here.
So where are you now? Not going to turn up, but it looks very nice where you are. You've got beautiful indoor plants, gorgeous.
Yes, this is all because of my wife. She loves plants.
Okay.
And so we have garden in, garden out, garden everywhere.
Fabulous. I mean, I'm not being rude, Neil. Neil, I'm not being rude. But
No.
producer Ken clearly doesn't look after your plants as well as he does all the technical issues. I'll be
What
honest.
do you mean by that?
Nothing. I'm
I
just
don't
saying.
know. That's
just
my.
saying.
He's not in charge of my plants.
Yeah.
I know. I'm saying he isn't because everything else works perfectly because producer Ken's in charge of you. But plants, not so much.
How long does it take to learn the sitar?
How long does it take to learn the life?
Fair.
Not really. Seriously. But I mean, how long before you could play something?
You come to me and I will teach you Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star in 5 minutes.
You're right.
But
Well, that's
if you
not
want
going
to
to
be
fill out
master,
Madison Square Garden, is it? It's going to be a short show. How long before you could get to? I mean, you're obviously very proficient at it. It's a lovely, beautiful.
but
sound.
if you want to be master, you will take at least 20 years.
I'm thinking of something like chess, where it can take you an afternoon to learn, but a lifetime to master.
Exactly.
And bridge. Bridge is the same. And chess. You're absolutely right, Neil. It's a very good analogy.
Yes. And when I was actually sitar didn't come to my first instrument as my first instrument.
Right.
I used to just sing Bollywood, so-called Bollywood nowadays, film songs, walking around on the roof and everywhere. And I used to listen to gramophone records those days. You know, we had these 78 speed records.
Oh, you didn't want to drop those things, did you? Do you remember? You did not want to drop a 78 because they went into a million fragments.
Yeah. So I used to listen to those, but because my father was employed in Alwar, Rajasthan, and we were staying in a place which is the Alwar's king's nephew's place. So they used to have gramophone. We were so poor, we didn't have any gramophone or anything like that. And they used to play with me because when they used to play song, I used to go there and they used to stop. And then I used to go to my bed and then they start again. So that was a game for them, but not for me. It was very torture. So anyway, and when I went to my first blind school, I could play harmonium.
Can I jump in? Were you born blind or did that happen in childhood? If you don't mind me asking, but I'm sure everybody would like to know.
It happened after 8 months of my birth.
Oh.
So I think it's a blessing to me. Blindness has been a beautiful blessing for me. Because if I wasn't blind, I would be like my brother, who is in India, illiterate, doing nothing. His children, he got 6 children. I have only 2.
Yeah, well, you've probably got a television set.
So
Neil's going to kill me. Neil is going to kill. If he ever sees me in real life, he's just going to kill me. So how did you end up? So all right. So
okay. So can I go further?
Belushi, my father was legally blind, so it's something that I unfortunately had far too much experience. So why for you was it? You've said a blessing.
Because that's a powerful frame. That's a powerful frame. So break that one down for us, if you would, Belushi.
Okay, it's blessing for me because if, first of all, as I said, if I wasn't blind, I wouldn't be here. Talented is not enough. Talented and being lucky, and the blindness has many advantages. First advantage is I can just bump into anyone and they will say sorry to me.
Right.
And there are other advantages like being a blind. I don't see what I don't need to see, so I don't see it. And there is so much which we should not see and divert our attention to everything else. So I'm more concentrated on whatever I do.
I can understand that. I mean, that's a fascinating way of looking at it, because we're in a very distracted age. Are your other senses a lot more astute?
Well, it's because of my blindness. I have to practice other senses.
Yes.
So I have to practice my hearing, touch, smell, and whatever it is. So
yes.
Also, it gave you freedom, didn't it?
I heard. I also
as a blind person, the very, very important thing is, as a blind person, I was free to do whatever I wanted, because in India, once you're blind, nobody cares about you, including your family.
Including your family?
Yeah.
Why? Are you seen as sort of not 100% all there, or why is that? That's awful.
It's very difficult for them because they have to take care of me every moment, and it's very difficult. Saying that, I wouldn't say completely that my family didn't care about me, but they didn't care where I was going, what I was doing outside, and I was totally free. I could talk to anyone. I could do anything I like, and
because in a sense you're free from societal and cultural rules, and I would imagine there are a load of those in the Indian culture. My knowledge is limited, but in a sense, I've never heard it framed so powerfully that being blind freed you from all that. Because I mean, saying being blind and people don't care sounds terrible, but in this case, you framed it as the most incredible positive, and that's amazing, right?
Well, this is the very nub. This is the very nub of why I was so keen to get Belushi on the Daily Show, because here is something, and I'm in the forefront of this. I see this as a huge handicap, and it would be my nightmare. And yet you have said no, it's freedom.
Please, can I request?
Such a positive.
Can I request? Don't use the handicap word for blind people.
Well, what word should you use?
Just blind. Blind is beautiful. Handicap means I have got cap in my hand and people are giving me something in my cap.
No, it doesn't mean that at all. It means that you have, through nature, got something which is affecting you. That's what it means.
But in the way that Russ meant it, you're not handicapped. You're blind, but you're not handicapped. I know another blind guy. He calls himself Kane but able, which is quite clever.
See, Belushi, where I get confused is, watching my dad go legally blind and watching his world get smaller and smaller and smaller. Trust me, it was no blessing. It was awful. It was years and years of freaking misery. It was horrible watching my father go.
So
I can understand that, because I became blind at age of 8 months.
Yes.
So
you had nothing to gauge it against. I get that.
So what can you teach us, and this is all about mental health, that if someone does have I'm not going to use the word, if someone is in the same situation as you, how to turn it to your advantage? What mindset, what do you hold? What beliefs do you hold that allowed you to take something like this, and rather than your world shrinking and you not feeling a part of it, your world has expanded because of it? Now that's
the music is the best thing, because for me, music is not only playing instrument or singing in tune. For me, music is the world, everything in the world. Birds can sing, so can I. I believe in this. And music is one thing which gives you greater freedom than anything else, because for music, for Indian music especially, or for Arabic music, for Oriental music, you don't have to be educated academically. So you can just play music, and if people enjoy it, you are there.
I think music is one of the greatest healing and unitive forces available to human beings on this planet. And I've believed that for many years, whether it's Atomic Kitten or some classic Indian
We're talking about music, Neil. We're talking about music. Please don't bring
Oasis.
Please do not bring Kerry bloody Katona into a rather beautiful conversation. You don't mind.
I just reached for the first metaphor that came into my mind.
Yeah, well, that's at least go for Steps. I mean, at least they make an effort.
I still fancy Claire from Steps. Anyway, I
but you see, the thing is that
I was on tour with Steps.
Yeah, all right. Let the man speak. I can only apologise, Belushi.
No,
you were saying, sir.
That's fine. That's fine. So what I was saying, that music is such a big blessing for us, because when I came to this country, I heard music in taxis of all kinds of music. And I thought I should have an orchestra. Well, all kinds of musicians do exist. And this is very true. Inner Vision Orchestra is an orchestra of blind musicians. And they are from India, Iran, Japan, Afghanistan, Nigeria, from all over the place. And
Inner Vision Orchestra.
Inner Vision Orchestra.
Yeah.
And they are performing, the 3 women are performing on 16th of September in Lordale House. And please, I urge you to make big publicity so that we can sell a lot of tickets and a lot of people should come there, because there are 3 blind women.
Should people just Google Inner Vision? We've put it on the screen now, just to let you know. Should people just Google Inner Vision Orchestra and the details are there?
I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, Inner Vision Orchestra. And that will have.
Thank you to the person in the background there. Thank you to your prompt.
Thank you, mystery voice.
Yes, voice.
Either that, or I'm going around the bend and can hear another voice.
Yes, there
I'm
is.
suggesting I'm not.
This is my wife.
Hello.
Linda. Linda.
Linda.
Yeah.
Good afternoon,
Linda.
Linda.
All we got is a hat. There you are. Hello, Linda.
Hello.
Come a little bit in.
Oops, where are you? Oh, no.
What have you done now?
Oh, you see.
Where have you gone? Where have you gone?
Oh, God. Oscar, help me.
What have you done?
Oh, we got new helper here, Oscar Castellino.
Yeah, fire Oscar. I'm just leave 45 straight away because he's rubbish.
Technician.
It was going so well.
Oh, Oscar, you see.
Linda. I blame Linda.
Why
You
They
need
say
to press
blondes
start
have more
camera.
fun.
No, we've gone here, but you went out to the calendar.
It's all Linda's
Linda
fault,
or Oscar,
everybody.
you need to press start camera.
I'm going to take you off for a sec, press something, and then I'll see you. You'll come on my little control screen. Loving them.
Wouldn't it be a delicious irony if the blind guy restored the screen?
I was going to go there, and I thought I'll leave it to Neil.
But
You
but
haven't
he can't
changed.
see, but he does have vision, and that's just.
Do you know,
I mean, I've never
I'm going
heard
to be honest.
something.
This makes me very, very emotional. I'll be absolutely. I'm I don't put on a front for these shows. What you see is what you get. It makes me very emotional because I can only think of my dad, who was a sort of dashing fellow and a great driver and everything. And I watched bit by bit by bit of his vision go, and it broke my heart. It broke him. although it wasn't what took him. It was a prostate cancer killed him. But it broke him as a person. It was awful. He
It's like my
railed
mum with
against.
dementia, just bit by bit by bit.
Oh well, and my mum had 16 years of that. Great.
I know. I
You
don't know.
wonder why Howard and I started a mental health station.
Yes.
It's that's what I call him, Arnold Palmer. He's going to be called Arnold Palmer from now on. It's going to be a gag. So here's the thing: where are they? Are they back? Hang on, I think I can see a blonde. You see, it's Claire from Steps.
So
It is Claire from Steps. I told you.
And caused all that trouble.
It was you.
So can I also say something?
Yes, do you mind?
About your father?
Yeah.
He can also come and join our orchestra.
Well, only if you can contact him through a Ouija board. That would be quite tricky. But you know, you never
I'm
know.
so sorry.
That's all right. We can all join hands, but he won't come back. I promise you. I promise you.
Well,
Dad went 22 years ago, man.
He is in spirit with us, yes.
He went 22 years ago. In spirit, mostly Courvoisier in his case. Yes, that's the spirit.
Can I ask you, because I mean, you are really quite an enlightened soul, if I may say, in my humble opinion.
That's very kind of you.
If somebody has just been diagnosed blind, because it can happen at any point in life, and they might be in the depth of depression of it, or have another, I'll use the word disability because it's the common parlance, but it's not a disability for you.
I'll be back.
What advice would you give them? Because you have taken what most people would see as an incredible negative, Baluji, and turned it into the most powerful positive. And to me, being able to reframe like that, even with something as big as this, that just speaks mental health. And I think we've got a lot to learn from you. So what would you advise?
Well, first of all, when you wake up in the morning, you have to think it's a new day, it's a new beginning, and I'm ready for it. And I will do whatever it takes to achieve whatever I want to. If I cannot achieve full, still I have achieved something. Yeah. So it's not really thinking like, oh no, this morning it's too much raining, too much cloud, and I can't do anything. Get lazy and go to sleep.
So, I mean, it's the complete opposite of what I would call a victim mindset, what you display. I mean, do you, because a lot of people set intentions first thing in the morning. Do you set daily intentions, what you want to achieve?
Well, as soon as I wake up, first thing I think, yeah, it's lovely morning, beautiful. And I come to my wife and say, good morning. And she says, yeah, lovely, Balu.
Yeah.
And that's how it works.
Yeah.
So we have to...
Most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah.
You tell it like it is, Linda.
I do love this disembodied heckling. This is fantastic.
Well, what she meant most of the time in the day, at night probably.
No, she meant
work.
most of the time.
Yeah,
In our next hour, we're going to looking into the marriage of Linda and Belushi in depth with our therapists.
So that's a whole other series.
Yeah, oh no, I know.
You know, we've been
Linda,
together nearly 40 years.
How long have you been married?
40 years. Next year is 40 years.
You think it's going to last?
How do you do that? Because my best is 18 months.
I'm not very good at counting. That's half the...
No, that's why, because he thinks he's 70, he's 72, for God's sake. What's the matter with you two? Now listen, Belushi, as this is a rare opportunity, so sorry, Neil, but I have completely nosed up. I now have two guests coming on. It's completely my fault because I'm trying to juggle and spin too many plates. Anyway, could you play something else? It was so lovely. And who the hell do we know who plays the sitar, especially so beautifully as you? And it would just be beautiful.
That's very kind of you.
And this will go out, and this is going to go out as
beautiful,
well
yes.
on Deluxe Radio. All 70,000 just listening on Deluxe Radio. Belushi playing the sitar.
Can you do Stairway to Heaven?
I knew you were going to say that.
See, specialty of sitar is when you play these strings, the sympathetic strings also play.
Go on. Slightly mystical sound, isn't it?
Loving it. Belushi, thank you so much. Bless
Thank
you.
Belushi.
I'd love to have you back on the show, but more importantly, I want Linda back on the show. We want Linda. No, we
You
want
can't
Linda.
afford me, darling.
Is that right?
Hey, listen, I'm in and out of Soho most
Well,
weeks, so trust
I'm
me.
so happy
Not the
that
first
I
time
can
I've heard
afford
that.
her.
What-
No, of course, it would be our pleasure. Of
We'd
course.
love that. We're trying to set it up. Right.
Thank you.
You take care. Belushi, you're a freaking inspiration. You are. You're bloody
Thank you. That's
marvelous.
very kind.
Love you guys. All right. Bye. I have completely effed up today, so I've got no time to carry on. I'm just let's bring on happiness, happiness, the greatest gift.
Here she is.
My
Joe
partner. Oh no,
Howarth,
that's not
ladies
you.
and gentlemen.
That's not. You're not Belushi. Say, hey, listen. So Joe, my hide this. Now, my partner hates Ken Dodd. So when I want to piss her off, which is most days, and here's another guess, I completely messed up. This is entirely my fault. We're going to have a four-way here and just chat.
Okay.
My partner hates Ken Dodd and hates it. So when I'm dusting, or if I'm visiting, I get the tickling stick and do that, and all I have to do is go da 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 da, and I get yelled at.
Brilliant.
Deservedly so, I would say.
Well, that's not very nice. I don't like. No, she's gone now. Oh, I can't hear her. Oh, she's gone. It's a shame. It was going so well, that interview. Right. You know, I've got to bring on somebody else because otherwise I'm going to get my ass kicked by every PR company in town. How?
Hello.
I know this is hopeless. This is my fault, Neil. I take full responsibility for effing up.
No problem at
I'm
all.
trying to spin. The trouble is, ladies, I'm trying to spin so many blooming plates, and sometimes things slip through. So,
Now, can you hear me?
Yeah, no, I can hear you.
can
You
hear
can
you
hear
loud and clear.
perfectly well.
Perfect.
Okay, let's start with Joe.
Well, shall I introduce Joe and give her a bit of background?
Yeah, you do all this because you're a genius. Go on, off you go.
Well, not this, Joe. Joe, I got to know relatively recently, and why I think Joe Howarth, the happiness coach from the Happiness Club, is brilliant. I even wrote some notes on it this morning because there's so many things I need to write them down. Number one, you're completely authentic. You also give the message. It's not one of these sunshine and rainbows things where, oh, just be happy all the time, like Instasham would tell you. You acknowledge that no one can feel 100% of the time. Your techniques are grounded science, which help people genuinely, provably up level their happiness quotient. And you also bring a delicious kind of universal spirituality into it, but in the most down-to-earth way that doesn't repel people. So you are quite the package. Plus, you're a professional hypnotherapist. Plus, you train people in this discipline, which I want to hear more about in a bit. And you're really just amazing. And I love your idea of daily glads. So give us a little bit of backstory of how you became a happiness coach. How did it happen for you?
I am a bit struck dumb now, Neil. I don't know if I can speak. I mean,
I've never known him so polite. He's obviously in awe of you.
I am.
Right?
Normally he's an arse. I'm
I mean,
amazed. And I've known him for 30 plus years and nothing's improved.
Well, I'm a bit blown away by that introduction. Thank you very much. I became a therapist because I had therapy and it changed my life, because I used to be miserable as sin, incredibly negative, and didn't think I deserved a thing. And then I had therapy and it made me go, oh, no, look, I've learned how to be like this. This is all that's all.
How long were you in? Excuse me, I'm so sorry. How long were you in therapy for?
I've been in therapy on and off since I was 25, which was like
4 years.
Yeah, do you know, I was just going to say 3 weeks, but that's fine. I'll take 4 years. That's fine.
And what kind of therapy was it?
Smooth today.
So I started off with counselling and advanced hypnotherapy, which is why I'm now an advanced hypnotherapist, because that's
now, Esther, Esther, this is completely my fault. Esther, tell us about yourself. Don't go away, Joe.
Okay.
Hello, lovely to meet you, Joe. Hello, Neil. Hello,
Hello,
Russ.
Hello.
I'm known as I noticed you got my name, Esther Stanhope. Thank you. The label really ought to say that the impact guru. What does that mean? It means personal impact. I help people. I mean, it's kind of relating to what you do, Joe. I mean, the way I help people to find their inner confidence, find their voice, be more visible. And I tend to work with people, professionals who feel they haven't got a voice, don't feel confident. And my background's broadcasting, and I worked at the BBC for many years. And I kind of know how to do it, but I wasn't really born confident. I wasn't really confident enough to be on camera and be the show person myself, but I was really good at helping other people to bring out the best in them. So I wrote a book about public speaking. I was terrible at public speaking. I had no confidence. I wrote a book about it and won an award. And now I help people to speak, get their voice heard. And, that's why this week I think we're talking about the speeches.
So really, the link between you two, he said, desperately scrabbling to cover up for his monumental balls up, it's not the BBC. We don't care. We don't care. What you see is what you get. Is that it's transformative. What you do, both of you, is transformative. It's very interesting, Esther, because speaking in public has never... It's never occurred to me to be nervous about it. Other things terrify me. Paperwork, I go to bits. I'll put it off like forever. Not writing my books, but, forms and stuff like that. So if you said to me, got to speak to 1,000 people in half an hour, I go, okay, fine. Won't bother me. But I've done coaching myself for CEOs, and they get into the most terrible tears, don't they?
Public speaking is the number one fear, over and above dying, apparently.
Yes.
Yeah, but it doesn't bother me at all. I mean, what I love about I'm sure your work as well, Esther, and Joe, something you said, Joe, it's you have to start with yourself. The healing, you begin with yourself, whether it's writing a book, Esther, on the thing that you didn't think you were very good at and becoming brilliant at it in the process, or Joe learning how to be happy, and there it is. Look at that. I love
is that like a Roy Lichtenstein?
Yes, a Lichtenstein copy of Fear.
Right.
That's how a lot of people feel about public speaking.
Yeah, very much so. But the trick is you start with yourself, and I've seen so many people in this coaching and healing industry, particularly in the NLP world, of trying to sort of heal themselves by sort of vicariously healing other people. But you don't do that, and it never, and that doesn't work, by the way. There's way too much of it going on. You started by transforming yourself, Joe, and then from that expanded place, have been able to put out this fantastic body of work that is helping thousands and thousands.
Joe, when Neil phoned me at the crack of dawn and said, "Hey, I've got an idea," and I like, because I don't go to bed before 4.
It's 9 o'clock. It wasn't the crack of dawn.
For me, my friend, that is 3 a.m. And I said, "Oh, this is great," because happiness, I think the world we live in is so unhappy.
But Joe used a key word. Which changes the flavor of any conversation about happiness. I learned to be unhappy. Yeah. So that means the world is not an unhappy world. The world is full of people who have learned to be unhappy. And that presupposes there's a choice and techniques to change it. And that's the magic of it, right?
That's it, totally, right? And as you say, it utterly starts with yourself, because, and there's, this is a bit of a trend in the personal development world right now, but you have to put your own oxygen mask on first. You can't help somebody else or use your energy helping other people if you're not helping yourself as well. So it has to start with you, 100%. And the more that you focus on yourself, then the more you have to give other people. That's literally how it works.
Yeah, and it reframes selfishness as well, because there are some less enlightened people who go, "Well, that's really selfish. Look what I give," but they're normally resentful and unhappy and burned out.
You're absolutely, totally
it's self-care.
Useless. We've used the analogy of the oxygen mask on the airplane when it decompresses many times on MRS, Men's Radio Station, because it's a fact. If you're in bits and you're in kit form, what use are you to anybody you know? And also, if you're empty and you just keep giving, it's horrible. It's a horrible thing. Now, for both of you, it says Facebook user, but I happen to know this is Dave Sleet from up in Fife in Scotland. He's the Grand Fromage of ANA, which is a huge, great psychological organization. He says, greetings one and all. What a pair of great contenders for an APA Ethical and Psychological Award for you both. Get you. See? So it wasn't a complete waste of time coming on. There we are. How long does it take you to turn somebody round from being pretty grumpy, miserable, unhappy to happy?
Oh my word, that is the how long is a piece of string question.
Yeah. Precisely, of course. I know. Right? But
it's utterly unique to each and every individual, depending on how much you've learned and how much of that learning you're holding on to and how much of that learning you're willing to let go of and how much you're willing to learn the new stuff. For me, that was the absolute revelation, was the fact that I had learned how to be who I was.
Yeah. And that's what I picked up on.
Yeah. And that's part of my message now is you've learned this, you can unlearn it, and you can learn how to be whoever you want to be, however you want to be, whenever you want to be it.
Nice.
I mean, for me, you talked about an unhappy world before. Happiness for me is the most important thing in life, bar none, because I utterly believe that whatever the thing is, whatever that thing you want to change or leave or release or let go of or have, whatever the thing is, what you want in the changing of that thing is to be happier.
Of course.
Which makes happiness the most important thing in life. And yet,
but again, it starts with yourself. And most people try to change the outer world, which is a bit like going to the cinema and expecting the pictures on the screen to change without going back to what's projecting them.
Yes.
How did you think of that?
Good simile.
How did you think of that?
Very good
simile. Because I'm brilliant. That's fine. And I want to ask you more about therapy in a bit, Joe, as well. But I think we need to give Esther some love as well.
We do. Now, Asa Don Brown, who's watching and listening from New York State, not New York City, but New York State in the northeast of America. Asa Don Brown says this. For me, I have to read it out, by the way, in case you think I'm just filling. I'm not. It's because this goes out on also deluxe radio, 70,000 people, but they can only listen. They don't see us. Asa Don Brown, for me, happiness is the ability of achieving internal peace. Oh, I agree with that. It's not giddiness for a smile on one's face. I agree. It's an internal balance of self and life. My eternal battle, to be honest with you.
That sounds a bit like yoga, doesn't it? It's about life and in the internal balance. I think actually it is to do with smiling, though. I'm sure, Joe, you've got quite a lot of things to say about physically being happy and smiling and what it does to your brain. Because obviously the physical part of what I help people with as well, it's related to happiness, internal peace, how you feel about yourself, what mood you're in. And what mood you're in, really, it does have a huge effect on the way that people are receiving you. So obviously,
totally.
If I'm helping people with speaking and confidence, it's about who's on the receiving end of this thing that you're
of this energy, and that's
this
another
energy,
word.
this ball of stuff, that's kind of, is it peaceful inside? Is it generous?
Because people do sense your vibe, don't they, Esther?
Yeah, vibe. And I'm not
people
really
can smell bullshit a mile as well.
Maybe I sound a bit
like
can't.
Keith Lemon's still on television. That can't be true.
Oh, stop it.
Katie Price still gets in the papers. They clearly can't smell bullshit.
But Joe, I'm sure you can relate to this as well.
Meghan Markle's visiting.
Oh my goodness.
How much bullshit is that smelling of? Listen, Esther, I'm going to ask Esther and then Joe. Do you think happiness, because I hate all those people, I don't give a shit. Do you think happiness is contentment? And I tell you why. I'll just from my own point of view, and then I want to hear from our guests. You're both fantastic. Please come back. Please, I want to give you like a full hour each, if that's okay with you. Is this, and I apologize once again. It's this. I think the old me would have wanted, the big things, the new car, and I just had my sort of road to Damascus moment, got rid of everything, completely decluttered. I mean, really decluttered, went minimal, and just looked for contentment. So for me, going out like I did this morning, having a cup of coffee with my dog sitting next to me and watching the river, I'm content.
Can I throw in an answer here? What I think, and then the experts can tell me if they think I'm right or not. I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting these things, but I think if you're unhappy in the absence of them, number one, it makes it harder to get them, and number two, you won't be happy when you do get them. It starts with your happiness. Yeah. And then it moves outward from there. And I think as we evolve, suddenly these become less important to us, and perhaps the deeper values, perhaps the more spiritual values. But I don't think you can go straight to those spiritual values without enjoying the so-called lesser ones, because you can't experience greater unless you experience lesser. Otherwise, there's no comparative. So it's kind of all good in a way. But to say my happiness depends on the new car or depends on the new phone, no, happiness depends on you.
No.
That would be my punt, if you like.
Yes, I'm sure.
Joe, what do you think about the word content?
Lots to say about how what form does happiness come in. Joe, I'm sure you've got lots of like contentment. Yes, that's part of the puzzle, isn't it? I suppose it must come in different forms.
Yeah, for me, happiness is about allowing the whole kit and caboodle. It's about accepting and allowing and embracing whatever is in front of you in that moment, whatever's happening for you in that moment.
Even the bad stuff.
Even the bad stuff.
Exactly. And I notice you say for you, happening for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's part that was a huge mindset shift for me. Things happening to me as opposed to things happening for me. And I very much now believe that everything that I experience is happening for me, whether that's an enjoyable experience or not. It's always happening for me, not to me, which is for me was a completely different way of looking at life, the whole thing.
Well, it's the polar opposite of the victim mindset, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah, totally. And so happiness for me is, I mean, I used to use the word positive and negative and bad and good, and obviously they still come out because it's conditioned into me, but I try and do the inverted commas thing when I use the words negative and bad, because there isn't any bad, there isn't any negative. When you start looking at life in that way, that things are happening for you, even when they're difficult, even when they're challenging, they're happening for you to learn something, to grow, to develop, to achieve something. When you look at life that way, then it's all embraceable. It's all acceptable. Some of it's harder than the rest of it, but it's still all good stuff.
And the more you accept, the less you resist. And they say what you resist persists as well. So the corollary of that is what you accept eventually you will pass through a lot quicker, right?
Joe, I'm going to come on to Esther in a sec, but Joe, let me run this by you, because I don't really go with that. This is just me. I know that Neil's buying it, and I'm standing outside the shop window going, I'm not sure if I'm going to walk into this particular store, and I tell you why. Because Nietzsche, they always quote Nietzsche, and anybody that Hitler likes isn't really high on my list for a million reasons, about 6 million reasons actually. And they say, that which does not kill you makes you strong. And I always go, bullshit. No, it doesn't. It just is exhausting. I just think that's garbage. And I've always thought that was garbage. I look back on the things that have happened that have been horrible, truly horrible, which I'm not going to go through now. I don't think it's made me strong. I'm still here.
Okay, so they might not have made you strong, but you may have learned stuff from them. They may have added to your life in some way. I completely agree, by the way, that contentment is a massive part of happiness. And I completely agree with Neil with the whole external stuff. Yes, it's beautiful to have external stuff. It's beautiful to have that car you want and the house you want and the lifestyle you want. But your happiness does not depend on any of that.
No, it's just stuff. It's just stuff.
It's absolutely inside
and it's
you.
like drugs. You'll need more and more and more to get the same high, which is why I've never done drugs. So, Joe, let's go on to you with your coaching. Now, this is something that fascinates me. I've got some pals who are hugely successful in their individual fields. Neil's not one of them, by the way. And God, right. So here they are. And we all talk about this. And we say, oh, he's gone off in a sulk. Sulking. Right. So my question is this. So he's really gone off.
Neil, come back.
It's a protest.
Right.
There's only so much I'll take, Russ Kane.
Yeah, I know, but we're nowhere near that yet. Right. Here's my question for Joe. When you teach these people and you're giving, And they're usually I should imagine they're high-profile people. There's a lot of people work for them when they're speaking. Do they suffer from imposter syndrome? And I wonder if that's a real block in you being able to get and say, well, Sir Fred, off you go, and you know, the sort of stuff that you would do.
Sir Fred, yes, I would tell Sir Fred. Yes, Sir Fred would absolutely experience imposter syndrome. I think every human being.
And Esther, do your clients, do you think, have that? It's such a common theme that no one talks about it.
Well, actually, in my world, everyone's talking about it.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, good. Okay, well, that's a lucky break.
Syndrome. It's a thing. It's a buzzword, but absolutely, yes.
Background in broadcasting, you're going to find loads of it.
I mean, even the worst people actually are radio hosts. If you talk about imposter syndrome, I think it was Bob Mills said, "What is that then? What is imposter syndrome?" And I said, well, it's that feeling that maybe in a moment somebody might tap you on the shoulder and say, "You're not really good enough, are you?
What are you doing?
You're terrible,
here?
really, aren't you?"
That's Bob Mills that headlines comedy nights.
Yes, and he said, "What do you mean imposter syndrome? That's life. That's my life every day. That's me every minute." You know, expecting somebody to say, "You're rubbish. Get off."
He's not. He's a great.
The interesting thing, we think it's all us at, well, I'll exclude our guests, but like we think it's us at whatever level we are. But you can meet some incredibly hugely successful people, and when you get to know them, they become your real friends. They say, we're always expecting, exactly as you say, the tap on the shoulder saying, "You're actually shit. What are you doing here?" And that's how they live. Yeah. We all think we're going to get found out.
But surely the cure for this is to say, rather than "why me," say, "why not me?" Because the more you do something, presumably, the better you'll get at it.
Absolutely.
Again, it's a shift, isn't it?
I don't know if there's actually a cure. I think there's an acceptance. As I think, Joe, I love your language that you're using, accepting and embracing, and I'm going to use inverted commas here, leaning into it, leaning in, because actually
leaning into it.
Ooh,
we're veering into Good Morning Britain. We've got to pull ourselves back.
See, I like to go full out. I agree with you both, but I want the full on cure. So I'm going to go beyond.
The thing is, though, is that the voice of doubt will never leave you. It will always be there. It's just how you're going to handle it. So the cure is how you're going to handle it, not it. You can't, change and get rid of it altogether, because we've all got our human nature, we've got inner demons, and we've got those inner voices, those inner critics, and it's about how you handle it.
I do know one person that he's done so much personal development. He says he hasn't heard the voice of his inner critic, which is what we mean by this, for 10 years.
And I honestly, I agree that most of us experience it. All of us experience it to one degree or another. I don't know that you can't do anything about it. You absolutely can.
Yeah.
In my experience, the most commonly held belief by humankind is I'm not good enough.
Yes.
It seems to be at the core of absolutely everything.
Yeah.
Unless you're a politician, clearly, which they think they're geniuses. Both sides of the Atlantic.
Do they really know?
They're awful. They should just go back and run a shop somewhere. And
there is a technique I learned. See what you think about this, Esther and Joe, where you put your thumb out in front of you and you imagine your inner voice. Because I've done about you, Esther. Maybe you've done it, some NLP. I know you have, Joe. And you take the voice of your inner critic and shrink it right down and put it on the end of your thumb. So you're looking at it from a distance and it's very, very small. And then give it a really squeaky voice that you wouldn't take seriously, like Donald Duck or Mickey Mouse. And then when it's saying those things to you from a distance in a squeaky voice, it's a lot different from when it's very loud in your head. And it gives you an awful lot of control over it. And you see yourself as separate from it as well. It's a very clever technique and it does work.
One of my tips is to name your voice of doubt. So quite often people will call it something like Debbie Downer or Judgy Janet. Mine's called Cynical Cyril.
Mine's called Total Utter Bastard. Please go away.
Mine's called Neurotic Neil.
But I like the idea of putting it on the end of your thumb so it's tiny. So Cynical.
Let me ask you this. I want to ask both of you. Let's start. Let's start with Joe and then on to Esther. Which is this. I actually, when that voice starts, and it comes from nowhere, it doesn't matter. I could be making a piece of. No, I know it comes from deep within, but I mean, I might make a piece of toast. I might be writing a book. It doesn't matter. The activity is irrelevant. I actually tell it to blank off aloud. I actually talk to it aloud, and it works for me.
Mm.
You know, I don't know. Is that because I'm going around the bend, or do you think that's the technique?
Well, it could be both, couldn't it? Really, Russ?
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't the answer I
I've
was
heard of
kind
that
of
before.
hoping for.
The creator
I
of
don't
NLP,
like your friend. I don't like your friend that much now.
the creator of NLP, Neuro Linguistic Programming, called it the STFU technique, and it's shut them up technique.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I think
I
that's
like
a
that.
valid technique. Tell it to
Yes.
go away politely or not so politely, whichever way you fancy. Definitely a valid technique to realize that you are not that voice, that
That's
voice
it.
is not you, right?
But it's part of us, isn't it? It's the really bloody awful part. This is so.
That's why it
God, I
helps when you
love
put it
this.
out of the
It
distance.
is part of you. It's that. It's like Men in Black, isn't it? You know, it's the little tiny thing which is controlling the big. You know,
Yeah,
when
but
the
here it
alien
is.
collapses.
It's not in charge. It just thinks it is. That's
For a
another way
moment.
of framing it. And they
Yeah,
say
that's
it's
true.
there to keep you safe, right? It's to protect you. But it's a little bit like when there's no war anymore and the soldiers are still fighting on the battlefield. True story, that actually did happen in real life at the end of a real war. And the general or someone in authority walked out and went, guys, I appreciate your service, but the war is not over. The war is now
War
over.
is
sorry.
over. Yeah.
The war is over. You don't need to do this anymore because it's different now. Now, if you relate yourself, your higher self, your big self, as the general, and the little voice as the soldiers that think the war's on, it's just a way of kind of being kind to it. Right? Or you can just do STFU, whichever.
Let me
I
ask
like
this.
that
Let me
idea,
ask this.
still
Let's
fighting for no reason.
Let me
Sorry,
ask
Esther?
this.
I love the idea that they're still fighting for no reason because nobody told them, by the way, you're grown up now. You're not a child being told off age 6
Exactly.
anymore.
And we have
You're-
the power to
you're
do
grown
that
up.
for
Yeah.
ourselves with these techniques because we're the big grown up now. It's like a puppy. You'd love it, you'd nurture it, but you wouldn't let it wreck the house.
Yes. Yeah.
That's just what I was saying at 3:00 this morning when Ebony was ruining my Chinese rug. Anyhow,
Sorry to hit a nerve.
yeah, well, a few nerves been hit today, fella.
Just metaphors, that's all. No offense.
We live in a world of there's some terrible people in the news who are always in the news who are clearly narcissists. Do they not have an inner voice saying "shut up" for 10 minutes? Can I start with Esther on that?
Yeah, I do think that we all have an inner voice. I'm sure people have that, inner critic, and obviously they read a lot of stuff there's a lot of trolls out there telling them how terrible they are as well. And I think they've probably decided the way I'm going to handle this is I am literally going to block it out, and the various techniques for that. I think politicians are a different breed to, quite my main clients tend to be professionals, and they're not kind of they're not built in, I want to speak at a podium type people. People in broadcasting, you know this, Russ and Neil, if you're in broadcasting, it's your job to speak, and how, the techniques. You're not scared of an audience. It's very much a skill that you've learnt.
Indeed.
Quite often the people I'm working with, it's a skill they just haven't really learnt.
Yeah.
Quite often they've put it off. They've put off the skill, whereas politicians have been learning this skill. So they're kind of, politics and backstabbing and strategies, but all the time they've been learning debating.
And they've also never had a proper job. I mean, a lot of these are professional. No, a lot of these people, I'm not talking about your clients. That would be rude because I'm not talking about that. But a lot of the people who set themselves up to run and govern us or potentially do so of either side of the house, it doesn't, or anywhere, you think, well, what have you actually ever done? And the answer is square root of sod all. Because you've always been a professional
I've learned
politician.
how to go, rah, look at him, he's so awful. Let's get everyone against this person. They've learned politics, and it really is. They've learned the skill.
Well, like most of them are like sixth form,
But you're the positive, confident public speaking is not divide and conquer, is it? Of course.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting because I've been looking at the way that these speeches have unfolded this week. And it's really, I don't know if you've seen, the Boris one, the Liz Truss one, and the Meghan Markle speech. They're so different. And you hate them all, do you, Russ?
No, I don't. Please don't mention the Montecito Mona on the show, because I would just have steam coming out of my ears. I've never known anybody who wanted to be Greta Garbo, and we've got to hear from her hear from the pair of them Monas every 10 minutes. Jesus Christ. You want to go away? Go away. Do us all a favor. You got nothing to say. Shut up.
I mean, but just if thinking about happiness, Joe, I mean, gosh, looking at the news, I mean, it's unbelievable, isn't it, about the things that are fed to us on a daily basis. What's your, like, I'd like to know from Joe, you know, your kind of, how do you handle all of that negative, in inverted commas, stuff coming at us? Because we're kind of fed, the energy crisis, the war,
everything. Well,
COVID,
we've
Brexit,
had the COVID,
you know,
we had the pandemic, we had Brexit,
everything's kind of
awful.
It's going to be terrible. Whatever it is, it's so worried. Here's something else to worry about every day.
But you're both professionals, you know, let's be grown up about this, that shit news sells. They've tried in the past. People said, why don't we have channels just good news? And they tried to do good. It tanked. It tanked. You have a doom and gloom story and it just sells. God knows why. I hate it.
But it was a great question, Joe, and it applies to many of us. What would your thoughts on that be?
Well, so if I tell you that I haven't watched the news for at least 5 years,
good,
that would probably tell you everything you need to know about my thoughts on.
I am so with you. You are so right. I don't watch the news, and unless I'm doing a newspaper review on one of the big channels, I never ever read the newspapers.
No,
it's all terrible.
Read newspapers. I don't watch the news. I don't read it on the internet. I find things out, obviously, from having conversations with people, which I think gives me, if I'm having a direct conversation with someone, it gives me the opportunity more to filter what I'm being told. And I'm big on social media. But again,
Joe, I don't know how to break this to you, and I'm really sorry. The Beatles broke up.
No way!
I'm telling you now. I didn't want to. I couldn't think of a gentle way to lead into it.
I can't believe it.
I know.
And Boyzone.
Even Esther's shocked. She reads the papers.
I read the Sunday papers because they have supplements and fashion.
I know.
Right, but I figure if there's something important I actually need to know, then I'm going to find out about it.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
That's my attitude.
And look at you, you're doing pretty okay on walking your talk.
I'm doing all right.
And like the guy that we had on at the beginning of the show.
Oh, Belushi, how wonderful was he? Our three guests, I mean, both of you and Belushi, it's so interesting because I know I muck about a lot. It's just my nature. But you move the conversation, and in your totally different ways, you move, I'm going to say the human condition without sounding like a French philosopher and smoking a Gauloise, that you move it on. You advance where we are. You give us food for thought, and it's so important. You know what you both do is so important.
Inspiring.
It really is. It is inspiring.
Russ, we've got to get both these incredible women back for an hour.
You're not allowed to say women. You've got to say guests.
Guests.
They'll probably sue you.
People.
Now. They'll sue you. They sue you. Also, as Ricky Gervais says, I went to see his warm-up show. He says, I've become woke. He said, so I saw this last week. It was a trial show for him. He goes, I've become woke. So here's my first woke joke, ladies and gentlemen. A man goes to the doctor and says, Doctor, I feel like a pair of curtains. And the doctor says, well, you are then. The audience just cracks up because they got the whole thing. Anyway, we're out of time. Could we persuade you, or are you going to both go to your agents and PR companies and say, never, ever let me Russ and Neil ever again? It was awful. Would you come back?
No, I'm sure our charm has circumvented.
I'm not so convinced. I'm 50% convinced.
Very quickly, Joe, what's your website address where people can check you out?
thehappinessclub.co.uk.
Esther?
EstherStanhope.com. Esther is spelled ESTHER. Or the 80% Perfect Club. I have another little.
Oh, I like that.
I like that.
Talk about that next time.
God,
next time you're on.
Can we book? We'll book you in. I promise.
The 80%
and I'm
Perfect
sorry,
Club.
my fault. Oh, and lastly, we just then howdy from Houston. That's in Texas. Great show as always. Thank you, Julie Voice. Thank you to our special guests, Esther Stanhope and Joe Howard. Thank you, Neil. You're a very good sport, and you've all been great sports. We'll be back Friday. Until then, try and stay out of trouble, everybody. Bye-bye.
And I'll see you.